Wakati wa kujikomboa umefika. Watu yangu, shika masikio. Shika sikio, shika sikio. Wakati wa kujikomboa umefika, musisikie hii wakora. Adui ya Muluya mara nyingi ni Muluya. Wanaanza propaganda, wanapanza propaganda. Sisi tuko united for the 2027 elections. Hakuna kugawagawa kura. Wala ambao wao mnaenda mnaongea na Wetangula, enda ambia Wetangula kwamba Natembeya pigana na majangili Rift Valley. Anapigana na majangili Isiolo. Anapigana na watu ambao wanabeba bomu. Asiniletee watoto kuja kunipea mimi na nipini. Mwambie blood factor. Ambie kumbavu. Sema Wetangula kumbavu. Mwambie shezi. Mwambie awache ujinga. Awache ujinga. Wangu bado sema Wetangula awache ujinga.
Mimi nataka niwaambie hawa vijana ama hawa jamaa, kwanza yule anatoka Trans Nzoia anatembea hapa anafikiri kwamba sisi ni mapadri. Mimi nataka nimwambie mwaka wa 2027 bwana Natembeya, tunakuletea candidate, we are coming for you. Tutakuwa na candidate kule Trans Nzoia, wewe utaenda nyumbani. Wewe ni tamu moja umeingia tu, alafu unafikiri ati umeshinda Weta, umeshinda Mudavadi, umeshinda hawa watu wote.
Ladies and gentlemen, allow us to talk about the Natembeya fear, which is a factor that has been revealed to the whole republic recently after yesterday's attack at the convoy of the Trans Nzoia governor and the crowned spokesperson of the Mulembe Nation in Chwele Ward in Kabuchai constituency. The question that many have been asking, why is the government so determined in making sure that Natembeya does not continue its insurgence in the Mulembe Nation? Here is something that you don't know. The regime of President William Ruto counted on 3 leaders from the united opposition defecting at the end of the day. That was either Kalonzo Musyoka, was either Fred Matiang'i, and the last of them all, they counted on the buyout of one George Natembeya from the united opposition to joining the RUTOS bandwagon. But in the recent past, we have seen these 3 leaders, George Natembeya, Kalonzo Musyoka, and Fred Matiang'i, all in solidarity saying that if there is a man that they will never bend to his will, is President William Ruto. The first man they approached was Kalonzo Musyoka. Since the year 2023, President William Ruto has been secretly sending emissaries to Kalonzo Musyoka to try and convince Kalonzo Musyoka to defect from the opposition and join William Ruto. More so, even he used the late former Prime Minister and a political brother to Kalonzo Musyoka, the late Raila Amolo Odinga, to convince Kalonzo Musyoka to actually ditch his role in the opposition and join William Ruto's government, with a lot of goodies put on the table for Kalonzo Musyoka. But Kalonzo saw to stand still for the people of the Republic of Kenya. He swore to stand still for the oppressed. After William Ruto saw that Kalonzo Musyoka was not being convinced of joining him, he changed his tactics and tried now to court Fred Matiang'i to come into his courtyard. The first step that he did was to actually pile up cases to try and make sure that Fred Matiang'i does not step his feet in the land of the Republic of Kenya. That was before Matiang'i returned from his job in the World Bank, where he worked to come and start his campaign in the Republic of Kenya. And to ensure that Matiang'i was convinced to join William Ruto, they tried to blame Matiang'i and bring up cases against Matiang'i. A lot of case files were opened against Fred Matiang'i. And they told Matiang'i, for us to actually remove these cases, you will have to join President William Ruto. But Matiang'i came, and Matiang'i settled for the united opposition. A lot of propaganda has been sold about Matiang'i being a mole for the government of the day. All this propaganda funded by the state, but the propaganda never saw the light of the day. The propaganda never broke Matiang'i, nor broke the trust that people had in Matiang'i. So Matiang'i has remained, and he has shown his allegiance to the united opposition. It doesn't matter the differences they have within the united opposition. Matiang'i has remained confident in what the united opposition is doing. And the last on the list was George Natembeya. Now, knowing that President William Ruto has lost the Mount Kenya region as the largest voting bloc to Rigathi Gachagua, he knows that the second largest voting bloc in the Republic of Kenya, it's the Mlembe Nation that can actually make him the president come the year 2027. And so, having leaders of the Mlembe Nation aligned with him, he actually has to try everything in his power to ensure that he keeps the Mlembe Nation on his fingertips. But one thing he forgot. There was an insurgence, the rising of a new leader, a son of the Mlembe Nation crowned by the will of the people, born of the energy of Masinde Muliro and the wisdom of the late Kijana Wamalwa. And that is the son of Trans Nzoia County, former police commissioner, the current Trans Nzoia Governor George Natembeya. President William Ruto, realizing that the Mtawe movement led by George Natembeya had actually swept off the people of the Mlembe Nation from their feet since its launch a few months ago. Now he tried to convince Natembeya to join him. Musalia Mudavadi and Moses Wetangula were the people that were sent to convince Natembeya to fall on Ruto's side. But Natembeya was not ready to listen. Natembeya refused to be bought. And so, tactics changed. After Natembeya refused to listen to his brothers, even one Atuoli was sent to convince Natembeya to join President William Ruto. But Atuoli failed to convince Natembeya. Remember, Atuoli is a neighbor to George Natembeya, by the way, in Kitale. They come from the same constituency. They come from the same county. And they failed to actually convince George Natembeya to defect from the united opposition and join William Ruto's side. So, after this failed, William Ruto made the last attempt. A photo op was staged where the Cabinet Secretary of Interior Kipchumba Murkomen was sent to visit George Natembeya in his tour for the countries of the Ministry of Interior's Bunge Jukwaa la Usalama tour. That is where pictures were taken of George Natembeya and Kipchumba Murkomen. And many people, more so the government propagandists, started selling the narrative that actually George Natembeya had come into terms with Kipchumba Murkomen and they had signed a deal. But George Natembeya came out speaking and denying having cracked any deal between him and the government of President William Ruto. Now, cards seems to be flopping in the game that William Ruto was playing together with his allies. Ladies and gentlemen, after realizing all this, now Natembeya went ahead for the crown. I mean, he made a play for the crown of the Mlembe Nation. That is when you saw 2 months ago, Natembeya joined hands with the Mlembe Nation elders, where the two of them, the Mlembe Nation elders, the Mlembe Nation elders together with George Natembeya, they crowned Natembeya as the spokesperson of the Mlembe Nation. And they sent Natembeya not to vie for the governor of Trans Nzoia County, but for the either presidential seat or the deputy presidential seat. Now, Natembeya was crowned at Musalia Mudavadi's home county in Vihiga. More so, where the umbilical cord of Musalia Mudavadi's father and him are buried. And Natembeya rose to become now the king of the Mlembe nation. That was actually a coup against the leaders within the government of William Ruto, Musalia Mudavadi, and Moses Wetangula, who have in the past remained to be the tumbocrats that have benefited from the government, but they have not benefited their people of the Mlembe nation. Are we together? So now realizing actually that William Ruto is considering even making more advances to kick out Musalia Mudavadi and Moses Wetangula from his team. These people now have actually now modified their tactics, even to become so dangerous to a point that they are, as of right now, plotting assassination plots against Governor George Natembeya. You also saw what happened in Chwele Kabuchai constituency the other day. You have seen these happen in different times where threats have been made against Governor George Natembeya's life. Until now, you are hearing Musalia Mudavadi so boldly speaking that they are going to actually place a candidate to vie for the Trans Nzoia gubernatorial seat so that the candidate can unseat Natembeya. Natembeya is the second most performing governor in Kenya after Governor Irungu Kang'ata of Murang'a. What makes you think that you can actually topple George Natembeya? Another question that we ask Musalia Mudavadi, as Bonny Khalwale has asked today. Musalia Mudavadi, allow us to tell you that Natembeya, we have not sent him to vie for the gubernatorial seat. We have sent Governor Natembeya for the top seat, either the presidency or the deputy presidency. So you think you are threatening Natembeya with a gubernatorial aspirant? That is nonsense. More so, you are bringing the former CS who was beaten in doing our work as the Minister of Health in the country, Susan Nakumincha, and the other one, the failed MP of Kiminini, that is Chris Wamalwa. Ladies and gentlemen, the factor of Natembeya is a factor that cannot be assumed. And Natembeya is a threat to President William Ruto. And at the end of the day, Natembeya remains to be the man that will actually determine how the winner of the 2027 general election will be. Will it go to the government or will it go to the united opposition? The Ruto regime counted on the defection of either Natembeya, Fred Matiang'i, and Kalonzo Musyoka. But the three leaders have in different occasions sworn allegiance to each other. Currently, George Natembeya and Fred Matiang'i are together. They were together today in Kisii. Yesterday, they were together in the western region of Kenya. We have seen Kalonzo Musyoka join them in Malava. So what makes William Ruto think that he can break this board? The man behind the curtains organizing this chess game and putting the right pieces together for the united opposition is none other than Rigathi Gachagua. Is the political chess master. And William Ruto has to see that he has been toppled. The queen has been taken and it has crushed every piece in the chessboard. And that is George Natembeya. For now, that's what's up. Leave a comment in the comment section. See you in our next video. This is the Kenyan Daily Report.